Hey, how y'all doing today? This is Grow, and today we're making walnut ketchup. First of all, let's go over some ingredients. You're going to need some green walnuts. I have a walnut tree. This isn't hard for me to get in my part of the country. This is a common tree in the older areas, fairly easy to find. Now, I say green, it's got to be green enough that you can take a dull knife, this one's sharp, and prick the center and have no hardness. The smaller ones I've got, a little bit bigger than the end of my thumb, the last knuckle and on up. The larger ones, about twice that size by weight, volume, not necessarily by length or width. So you'll need that. You're going to need some salt. Now in this case I've got some real salt, which is a local Utah product. No, I'm not well, I guess I am endorsing them. I'm not getting paid for it. I also have the possibility of using just a pickling salt or kosher salt. There's a lot of question about iodinized salt. I don't know how the iodine affects things, so I just don't use it. Also, there are salts that have dextrose in them. I don't know why, but they have them maybe for, I don't know, anti-sticking agents also. I just don't use those. I go with pickling salt, kosher salt, even the sea salt, just something that's just sodium chloride, just salt. Got some cloves, got some black peppercorns. Ooh, pardon me. This is the pure ground black pepper. I'll probably still use it because I don't want to go shuffling around in the cupboard for too long. I've got some mace and I've got some nutmeg. Mace and nutmeg are from the same plant. The flavor is incredibly similar. Nutmeg's easier to find. Go ahead, use both if you've got them. Don't go out and get a special trip for mace if you're only going to use it once. Then I got some onions in here, maybe a quarter of a regular onion. Vinegar. Now this is the first step of the process. I'm going to be letting this stuff sit for about 2 weeks, so I've got to let it finish up before I can finish showing you it all. So this is going to be a two-parter. Mason jar. It's a fairly small recipe, and I've got a fancy plastic lid. The first thing I want to do, I put the onions in the bottom because they tend to float. So I cut those up, put them in the bottom. Most people can handle an onion. Now, the walnuts here, I've got a special way of doing this. You ever seen a pro cook do garlic? Gets a wide knife, presses down, and squashes it. Pressing right on top of the walnut, and then rolling it a little bit. About 25 are going to fit into this jar. It's not going to be an exact measure by any stretch, but none of these are exactly the same size. There's going to be a lot of winging on this recipe. And that's part of the history of the recipe. This is something that was popular through the 18th and 19th centuries, possibly a little bit earlier. And that's before we had tomato ketchup as we know it. We just didn't make ketchup with tomatoes till, really didn't get popular until mid-19th century sometime. This would have been something that would have been used very commonly to flavor dishes, soups, stews. You could add it to a barbecue sauce in modern day terms. Any way you cook it, you would find a way to incorporate a sauce like this, because let's face it, food variety back then was a lot more limited than it is now. But this would have been something that anybody could have made in their own kitchen very easily. Now normally when I do this recipe, again I take a little bit longer, I will put salt in this and let it sit for a week. That ensures that I have some good fluids coming out of the walnut that contain a lot of flavor. Because this is for a video, I'm cutting out that step. I'm going to put in my salt, and I'm going to put in my vinegar, and I'm going to put in my spices all at once. Again, it was done both ways historically. Your flavor on this, sometimes it'll turn out really good really early on, other times it won't. You have to understand what you're doing. Understand that, this may turn out good, it may not. Now, I usually overdo it in cloves. For this bottle, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to put 2 cloves in. That may be overkill. Peppercorns, these are generally asked for whole in the recipe. I don't want it necessarily powdered because I want it to be able to strain everything out. And peppercorn and cloves can get very, very potent. So I'm just going to crack these a little bit. Just a little bit. Again, if I had fresh nutmeg, I would go with fresh nutmeg. I'd do a couple grates of that. It's really a pinch. If I had a container I could pinch, I'd pinch it. As was, that was about a 1/16 of a teaspoon because this is an 1/8 of a teaspoon measurement. And I'm going to do about the same amount of mace. I might go a little heavier on the mace. Mace and nutmeg again are very related, but they also add some sweetness to most foods. That's pretty high up. Throw my lid on. Put this in a cool, dark place. I should note on vinegar, this is apple cider vinegar. You can use wine vinegar, you can use malt vinegar, you can use white distilled vinegar. Pickling recipes will generally recommend white vinegar, and that's for coloration. You're gonna have to do this June, very latest beginning of July. And honestly, once you put that vinegar in there, this stuff's gonna hold for a long time, and it's just gonna age. So go ahead, do that. Use whatever vinegar you want. But if you're gonna do it now. I don't know if you can see it on that. Well, I know you can see it on that board. This stuff stains. A little bit of bleach and some water and a little bit of gentle scrubbing will take that off. But guys, I know I do most of the cooking here. Don't ruin your wife's nice stuff. Okay, she may never cook, but she wants it clean. She wants it white. Don't take anything that's nice and shiny and new. Also, I should also mention containers. I'm using glass. I've used stainless steel. I've used enamel cookware. I will not use aluminum. I will not use tin because the acids in this vinegar, that's going to degrade that stuff and get something that's non-reactive. Plastic, a little stain. Glass, ceramic, stainless steel, all fine. Keep yourself safe. There's no reason to put it in something like copper that will poison you. This stuff's easy to get a hold of. Now with these, I'm going to just stick them back in my cabinet there where it's darker. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. And I almost forgot, I'd like to thank Jon Townsend. He did not teach me this recipe, but he inspired me to look into history the right way and to look at food history the right way. It's something I've always been interested in. Hey guys, this is the final to the walnut ketchup video. It has been a year and a month, so I'm somewhat slow on this, but it's given my walnut ketchup a long time to do its stuff and to get finished. And that's okay because this is something that is a long-term storage item. I mean, it's set here for a year brewing. It can sit for another 2 or 3 years before it's actually used up. The vinegar and salt are excellent preservatives. To start with, I should go over what we're going to need. A funnel is going to be helpful. Not entirely necessary depending, but it is helpful no matter what. I need bottles to put it into. I can put it in a mason jar. I can put it in a flip top. I've got a couple of these, they're actually cider bottles, 22 ounce. If you do that, you're going to need some sort of stopper. Wine stopper would be better. I don't have any of those. Of course, I need my unfinished walnut ketchup. I need something to strain the fruit with. I prefer a metal mesh strainer with some cheesecloth to get some of the fines out. And I need a bowl for my spent walnuts or something else to put them in. And that's pretty well all I need. For the first step, I'm going to take my walnut ketchup, unfinished. Just open it. Oh, that smells good. You notice I don't see if you can see that, the top is black. That's oxidation from, well, oxygen. You'll notice that this batch right here is all black. That's because I marinated these in salt before I added the vinegar. The flavor is going to be almost the same, but the color is going to be different because that oxidization happens quickly. So I'm going to focus more on pouring this rather than dumping everything out, although it is going to come out. Now, this was a very small batch. I usually don't make them that small. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pour a bunch of the rest of this into my bowl for discard. Now you'll notice on my hands there is a lot of stuff. Cooking is not supposed to be clean and tidy. You're supposed to make a mess and then clean up after yourself. I'm just going to take this and I'm going to heat it up. Now I do not know that heating this up strictly is a necessary process since this has got the vinegar and the salt in it, but it will kill any microbes. I haven't found documentation either way yet. But we're going to do that today because that's how I learned how to do this. With the cooking on this, we want it to come to a quick, fast boil. The more we cook it, the more of the acetic acid or the vinegar we lose, the more preservation power. This is just a simple, quick, fast sterilization. While I'm waiting for that to cook, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say what this is and the year I started. And then I'm going to put a B on there and the year I bottled it. You probably can't see that. This is something I've realized that I have to do now. I didn't used to. I've got enough fermentation projects going during the summers. I want to have them labeled from here on out. So go ahead, take that tag off, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to get at least 2 bottles out of this. Now people with nicer handwriting and are more organized and stuff will have prettier labels. You may not have noticed it, I'm not a pretty guy. I leave that to people with youth, hair, and skinniness. That, folks, was just enough to kill things. It's pretty hot. We're going to carefully keep an eye on it, make sure we don't go over. And there you have it. I'm going to let these sit for a while. I'm not going to stopper them until they're done, until they cool down a bit. In the meantime, I'll clean up everything and I'll have great ketchup. I'm going to go ahead and taste this from the pan. Oh, this year it's nice. It is really strong on the vinegar, a little less so on the spices and the umami from the walnuts. There's also some tannin in the walnuts that really adds to the flavor. Each year is a little bit different. I never, even though I've got the recipe posted below, those are general guidelines. Feel free to alter them. But this is really good. This is, it's got umami, it's got the acidity that I sometimes crave in a food, in a meat dish in particular. I encourage you to dip more into old styles of cooking, old recipes, and to find things that we have forgotten. Catch y'all later. Manana.